What's good, YouTube? It's me, by Squiddy, back in another Squiddio. I wanted to make this video to tell you guys everything you need to know about YCS Vancouver, which is happening literally less than 2 days' time. Now, I probably should have made this earlier, but hey, you know, whatever, we were a little lazy. So this video is going to encompass basically everything that you need to know if you're going to this event. And if you're not going to this event, it's still entertainment because you get to see what to expect for an upcoming YCS and what the metagame is going to be about. We're going to talk about some of the top decks, as well as everything you need to know if you're actually physically going to be here. Things like the transportation, things like the venue, and because I've lived here a long time, it's actually my home city, I can give you guys some insight into cool little tidbits, where to eat, so on and so forth, and we're going to cover that in this video. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk first about the decks to expect, because it's actually not clear-cut on what you would expect from a Yu-Gi-Oh metagame. So first and foremost, let's take a look at the actual decks that you should expect for this event. Now, I know that obviously we're going to have a lot of meta decks based on what happened at YCS Brazil. We're going to have Castiera, we're going to have decks like Purely, we're going to have decks like Dragon Link, and also the odd Chimera deck. You know, some of the top decks that have been doing well at regionals as well as the YCS Brazil. And of course, we will have Unchained, probably in the masses, because everyone just loves to bandwagon on whatever the pros are playing and whatever happens to do quite well. But the thing is, again, this is a single YCS. The 3v3 still has some skewed results, especially when you compound multiple best players in the world on one team. You're probably going to get some skewed results no matter what they play. So I would encourage people to go in with an open mind. Now, the other thing is, the fact of the matter is, Vancouver metagame is honestly not very competitive. The thing with Vancouver Yu-Gi-Oh scene is everyone's super nice. There are a lot of players that show up. We get decent turnouts for locals, probably 30, 35 players. And the issue is people like playing what they play. Like, the scene is not very competitive. We actually didn't get regionals for over 10 years. And last year was actually the first regional that we got since around 2013, 2014 era. I believe the last regional we actually got was when Infernities were actually good with the release of Level Chain, which was some Hidden Arsenal 4 or something. So yeah, that was about a decade ago, guys. And we literally didn't get a regional for 10 years because somebody punched a hole in the wall of the hotel venue that it was held at because we cut them off because the venue was small. So I'm not even kidding you. Konami didn't give us a regionals for 10 years, and now we got a YCS. It's crazy, but besides the point, what I'm trying to say is there are not a lot of competitive duelists in the scene. I think probably I can count on my single hand the amount of players in Vancouver, native to Vancouver, that have actually topped YCS or higher level event. Now, that's not to say there aren't any good players. There are tons of good players, but just give you a scene compared to something like SoCal or like New York, where there are tons of crazy players. They get like 1,000 people for regionals. This is kind of what you want to expect. Now, that means that there are going to be a lot of rogue decks. So I'm literally using Rogue Dog as a reputation, but people like to play whatever they've been playing, especially in a local metagame where it's sort of cabin fever. There are not a lot of competitive players that grind against each other, which makes everyone inadvertently better. It's kind of like in Dragon Ball when all the great fighters fight against each other and everyone's suddenly strong. This is more like a Dragon Ball and not Dragon Ball Z. Everyone kind of plays their pet decks. You will see decks like Marincess probably, maybe some branded decks, probably some Vloanderies decks, even Eldritch decks I've seen like lying around the local scene when I visit every now and then just to check out what people are playing. So you will see a lot of random rogue decks, and I would encourage you to adapt your deck or side deck to account for that, because again, the thing with Vancouver is we probably get around 150 to 200 players on a given regionals. That's probably the max capacity, and I imagine there are a lot of players surrounding in the BC area as well as on the Vancouver Island, and also some players that are going to come up from Seattle who are close enough to drive. So I would say this local scene from Vancouver is probably around 200-ish players. Now, the other thing that you guys have to understand about Vancouver is that this city is mega ultra expensive. Like, this city is super expensive. The housing is super chalked up. Everything has been inflated. Food, travel, utilities, especially over COVID. It seems like the rent just skyrocketed as well. People are paying upwards of $2,500 to $3,000 for a one-bedroom apartment close to downtown, which is absolutely nuts. We're talking like 500, 600 square feet apartments, tiny apartments. They are that expensive in Vancouver. And what that means is a lot of players were actually turned off by coming to this city for this event, especially when hotels range from nearly $500 or $600 a night for a downtown hotel. Airbnbs are also very, very expensive. I think some of my friends are paying around $400 to $500 a night for the Airbnb as well, individually. I think it was around like $1,500 to $2,000 for a house Airbnb per night, so they had to kind of split that. It's very expensive, so I don't expect a lot of players to turn out to this. And when we kind of look at the numbers for YCS Niagara, where we actually got, I think, around 600, 700, 800 players, I would actually estimate Vancouver to be around 500 to 600 players max. And when you account for local players being a huge chunk of that, nearly 200 players, what that means is literally a third or a quarter of this tournament will actually be local players. And based on what I've seen from the local representation of players, we're probably going to get a lot of rogue decks. So definitely, back to the original point, build your deck in a way that accounts for rogue decks. Play definitely things that can deal with floodgates, things that can deal with a bunch of variety of decks, so you don't restrict yourself to just beating one deck like Unchained or Kashtira, and then inadvertently lose the first couple of Swiss rounds because you're dealing with a lot of local players. So that's what I would suggest from a deck building perspective. Yeah, I mean, other than that, expect to see the type of decks that you would see at a YCS, especially if you're a better player and you already know that you're good enough to win the first couple of Swiss rounds to kind of pull yourself away from the casual scene and then dive into the pool of better players. And if you're aiming to hit top cut and actually win, obviously build your deck in a way that you would for any other YCS where you actually want to win in top cut and expect to play the top players in the top decks. All right, now let's talk about the travel for the actual event. The convention hall is actually held downtown and the airport is a little bit further, so your primary source of transportation is actually the metro system, which is called the SKYTRAIN. Now, you can obviously take an Uber or rent a car if you choose to, but the SKYTRAIN is actually very well equipped and can actually deliver you to downtown, oftentimes faster than you can even drive because you avoid traffic completely. This is kind of what it looks like. To give you a better picture, it's completely in the sky, hence why it's called a SKYTRAIN. So this is actually a map of Vancouver, and as you can see here, the YVR airport is actually on this tiny little island that's all the way at the bottom here, whereas downtown Vancouver is all the way at the top up here, and the convention hall is actually somewhere around here, I believe, right by Canada Place. So it should actually be right here where it says Vancouver Convention Center. So if you are staying downtown, your best bet is actually to take the SKYTRAIN, which is this blue line here that takes you, as you can see, directly to downtown. There are a couple of stops along the way. And then this is actually the driving route, or the bus route rather, but you can also drive, which I believe, yeah, this is a driving route here in the middle. So you can kind of see, I guess driving could be a little faster if there's no traffic, about 20 minutes, whereas the SKYTRAIN is about 27 minutes nonstop. And I would definitely recommend doing that because it's cheaper than an Uber. An Uber generally comes out to about $35 to $40, depending on the traffic from the airport to downtown and vice versa. Whereas going from the airport to downtown via the SKYTRAIN is about $7.50, I believe. It might have gone up a little bit, maybe around $8 or $9, but that's still an extraordinarily good deal. And then on the way back, I think it's actually cheaper. So from downtown to the airport, it's around, I think, $4 or $5, but don't quote me on that. Either way, all I'm saying is it's a lot cheaper than actually renting an Uber, getting a cab. And the Uber system, although it does exist in Vancouver, it's actually brand new to Vancouver. It's only been like 2 or 3 years since Uber actually came to Vancouver because previously the taxi drivers and the mayor just prevented them from coming. So there are actually not a lot of Lyfts or Ubers that are as easy to get in a bigger US city like LA or Miami. You know, like those cities are just easy to get an Uber, but Vancouver sometimes it takes some time and it's often more expensive. So I would definitely recommend that you guys hop on the SKYTRAIN, which is actually connected directly in the airport. So you can actually walk there internally through the airport. You just go up the escalator, follow the signs until it says SKYTRAIN, and then from the machines you can buy a ticket, and then from there you just ride all the way until the end, which is actually the Vancouver Waterfront City Center. So that would be right here. That's the last stop. Or if you're staying a little bit mainstream downtown, there are a couple of stops broken down downtown as well that you can get off and then either Uber or walk to your hotel or Airbnb. The actual venue that it takes place at is the luxurious Vancouver City Center, which is home to a lot of big events. And trust me guys, this is a really nice convention hall because it's actually seated right on the water. And as you can see, it's surrounded by a bunch of gorgeous scenery. It's really, really nice location. I've been here a bunch of times for different things. I was actually there last weekend for the Aritzia warehouse sale. But as you can see, this is just a glorious convention hall. One thing to note is that there are actually 2 halves of the convention hall. There's one called the West and one called the East, which are actually 2 separate buildings. So the East one is actually in the Canada Place, but our event actually takes place in the main Vancouver Convention Center. So you should be able to find that quite easily. It's past Canada Place, just a couple of steps. And the nice thing about this is that it's such a big venue And this event is probably on the bottom convention hall, which is like the bigger hall, if I'm not mistaken. That's generally where they have the Magic Fest events as well. In the previous past, we've had Magic-sized YCSs here, and also Pokemon Worlds, which were in the similar venue. And if you guys have to do number 2, I would definitely recommend exploring around the convention hall to go to a clean bathroom, because as you saw in one of my other videos, you do not want to go and share the bathroom with the Yu-Gi-Oh players. So yeah, definitely explore around. The whole convention hall is generally open. You can take the escalators up a couple of floors and find somewhere nice. Now, the nice thing about having such a good transit system with the SKYTRAIN in Vancouver is that if you happen to be staying outside of downtown because it's super expensive, then you can probably reach downtown really easily via the SKYTRAIN and also get to the last stop, the terminal stop, which is Waterfront downtown. So the Waterfront City SKYTRAIN station is actually only 10 minutes walk from the Vancouver Convention Hall. So you can see here where it says Waterfront. This is the main station right here, and you just have to walk along the water until you reach the convention hall. So as long as you're in range of the SKYTRAIN, I would definitely recommend taking the SKYTRAIN because there are never any delays, well, rarely. And the thing with Ubers and taxis is that they're really expensive. The traffic is also abysmal, especially when you get close to downtown Vancouver. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of our amazing transit system. This is probably one of the best transit systems in any city, especially across the states. Guys, I've been to like LA and Chicago, and the transit systems aren't that great compared to Vancouver. Vancouver's is really, really nice. Now, the other thing to note is that this is the actual terminal stop for the SKYTRAIN station, but there are a couple of SKYTRAIN lines that run through different locations, different directions in Vancouver, and they all kind of converge here at the Waterfront station. So depending on where you're staying, you'll definitely want to know where the SKYTRAIN is and which stations lead to where. There are a couple of other SKYTRAIN stations downtown that all lead to Waterfront, but it's sort of ease of access, so you can get off at different parts of downtown. There's a Granville SKYTRAIN stop as well as the Stadium Chinatown, and you can see that this particular SKYTRAIN called the Millennium line actually runs down in the east of Vancouver. So it's going down this way from Waterfront. It's kind of converging all the way down here. So if you are staying a little further, you can definitely ride this SKYTRAIN all the way up to Waterfront downtown and hit the venue. There's also a couple of other ones going down in the direction to the airport. So again, guys, the Millennium line is not the one that goes to the airport. This is the one that goes towards East Vancouver. We also have the actual SKYTRAIN that goes down to the airport. Here, as you can see, there are a couple of stops. Vancouver City Center is one of them, and then Yaletown Roundhouse is the other one. So this is the SKYTRAIN direction that actually goes down to the airport, and you can see you can either go to Richmond or the airport. It depends. It kind of has a fork here as well. So one thing to note is that when we are taking this line, which is called the Canada line, to go to the airport, just make sure that you're taking the YVR one and not the one to Richmond, because they actually fork pass right here into Bridgeport. So just make sure that you do double check, and they actually do alternate, so you can check the signs on the SKYTRAIN station, or if you're unsure, just ask somebody and they'll be kind enough to help. But you do want to take the YVR one to get back to the airport. As you can see, this one goes down to Richmond, but Richmond is actually a great place, especially for food and shopping. They've got a couple of large malls there, and if you guys love Oriental or like Asian foods, Chinese food, this is the place to be. This is basically where all the Chinese people are. It's called Richmond, BC. And if you guys don't know that, Vancouver actually has a large general Asian population. It's actually crazy, probably like around like 50-60% Asian, and Richmond is basically the main part of where the best Chinese food is. It's not Chinatown, guys. Don't go to Chinatown, because Chinatown is actually the worst part of downtown Vancouver. In fact, downtown East Side, if you guys don't know, is actually the worst for drugs in the entire North America. It's actually a lot of homeless, a lot of drugs. It's even worse in San Francisco. It's hard to believe, but guys, don't go to Chinatown. Or if you want Chinese food, go to Richmond. That's the actual real Chinatown where all the good food is. So you can take down that one Canada Line SKYTRAIN to go there and easily come back to downtown. But again, to show you guys a point, there are a lot of SKYTRAIN stations around downtown. Make sure you do get on the right station and you're going in the right direction. You don't get lost and go down the other path. So make sure you guys double check on that. And last but not least, I want to talk to you guys about the food options here at Vancouver. Especially downtown, there's actually a waterfront food court right 5 minutes away from the convention hall, so you can actually walk there. As you can see, it's less than 5 minutes, honestly. You can probably see it from the convention hall, and there's a downtown food court with a lot of different options, so I definitely recommend going there during the course of the tournament. It's something that you guys can definitely pick up. Alternatively, there are some food spots actually directly behind the convention center or attached to the same building. But they're a little more sit down from what I've seen. I think Quesadilla Burritos might be a little fast food place, but if you want to get something fast and you're not a fan of convention food like I am, then definitely go down there and get something to eat. Other than that, I'm going to give you guys some nicer food restaurant recommendations. One, actually right beside the convention hall, is actually called Cactus Club. This is a medium kind of like double dollar sign, maybe slightly $2.50 place. You could probably expect to spend around $30 to $40 for one person's meal, just the main entree. This is a very, very nice restaurant that's actually just by the waterfront. So it's really, really cool. You guys can get a taste of different things that we have here in Canada. It's just generic like American food. It's a lot like, I don't know what they have in America that's comparable, but it's less slightly, not really upscale, but like above middle classy place that's kind of by the water. So definitely really, really nice. And actually you can actually see the Olympic where they lit the torch for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. So it's really, really nice area. And it's just beside the convention hall. So if you guys are looking for a place for dinner, definitely go. But this place does get super busy. And I imagine with the convention going on, there will be a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players here. So just expect to wait a long time potentially. But this place is generally like probably one of the better spots. It's not super expensive. That's still decently good, especially for Yu-Gi-Oh players. I would say definitely check that out. Alternatively, directly across from Cactus Club is actually a place called Tap and Barrel, which is by the convention hall, which is basically the same as Cactus Club food, but it's a little less popular for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I guess it's because Drake goes to Cactus Club, but it's right beside, as you can see, it's beside the water as well, so that's definitely another place. If you're looking for somewhere more upscale, I would definitely recommend Miku Sushi. This is actually just down the street as well. It's about a 5-minute walk right here, and the convention hall is here. This place is really, really upscale. It's a sushi restaurant that's really, really expensive, I would say. It's about $40 for like one plate of like sushi. Probably like this is probably like $60. So it's definitely more upscale. But if you guys were expecting to go to a steakhouse, there are not a lot of good steakhouses in Vancouver. It's not really a Canada thing. There is one steakhouse called Gotham Steakhouse, but I would say Miku is definitely good as well. They have steak, they have sushi. Probably one of the best sushi places I've ever been to in my life. So definitely if you want an upscale place, you can go check that out. There is a steakhouse called Gotham Steakhouse, which is also downtown. It's about a 10 or 15-minute walk from the actual convention hall, maybe around 10 minutes. As you can see, it's just down the street here. And it's actually really, really nice as well. I think I've been there like once a long time ago, so I don't know how it is anymore. I don't know their pricing. You definitely check on their site. But if you do want like a American kind of steakhouse feel, then definitely check this out. We don't really have anything like Fogo or anything like that, so it's more like Canadian branded things, but that's not to say there are not a lot of good food. If you're looking for something really upscale, you can definitely check out Blue Water Cafe, which is also downtown, and it's in a very rich part of downtown called Yaletown. So it's about, you probably don't want to walk. It's like a 25-minute walk from the convention hall, but you can definitely Uber down to Blue Water Cafe, which is on Hamilton Street down here. And this place, expect to spend probably around $200, maybe $300 per person. If you guys are very bougie, you can get like a lot of seafood platters here, like very, very nice. I've been here a couple times and it's awesome. Like their lobster is amazing. Their sable fish, I believe this is one of my favorite of all time. Really, really good place, but it is very, very expensive. So if you guys go here, I would expect that you're probably winning the event and you're celebrating with your whole squad. But definitely, if you want an upscale place, this is really good. Another place is also Giardino, which is an Italian restaurant. And that's actually right by where I live. It's very, very close. But this is also a little cheaper. Expect to spend probably around $100 per person. But they have some of the best pasta that I've had, honestly. It's very, very nice. But the servings are very small, as traditional classier restaurants tend to be. So yeah, that's definitely something. But if you guys are sick of downtown, you can actually travel out of downtown to Richmond. I definitely recommend going to Richmond. They have the amazing Chinese food all the way down here. You can take the Canada Line SkyTrain to get down here, but one of my favorites is actually Sun Suiwa Seafood Restaurant. This is a Chinese restaurant that has amazing crab, not just the seafood, but they have amazing like dim sum as well during lunch. So definitely come check this out. This place is amazing. They have like beef, they have shrimp dumplings. This place is really amazing. Not super expensive. Expect to spend maybe like $50 per person if you split it and try different dishes between each other. There's also the Neptune Palace Seafood Restaurant, which is actually on the SkyTrain line. So you can actually take the Canada Line directly down from downtown and then get to this place just off the stop. It's actually connected to the stop, so you just take an elevator when you get off there. This is a very nice place as well. They have dim sum, a little more expensive. For dinner, I would expect to spend around $100 per person, but for dim sum, probably around $40 or $50, maybe $60. Very, very nice place as well. But I would encourage you guys, if you like Asian food, Chinese food, to go around Richmond because they have the best food down there. So definitely check it out, especially for Chinese food and sushi and stuff like that. Other than that, oh yeah, all the malls are in Richmond mostly as well, so definitely go check that out. There's not a lot of stuff on the main Vancouver. There is the UBC if you guys want to go to the campus to check it out for whatever reason, you can check it out. There are a couple of beaches downtown as well you guys can definitely check out. Other than that, everything on this other side, there's not really a lot to check out. There is Metrotown Mall, which is a larger mall that's a little down here. It's also connected to one of the SKYTRAINs, the Millennium line, so you can take it all the way down there if you guys want to go shopping. But other than that, that's all I had for this video. If you guys are Vancouver native and have anything that I missed, definitely let us know in the comments below. Other than that, I hope to see you guys in this YCS. Really stoked that we're having it at our home city. And if you guys see me, definitely give me a shout and come say hi, because I'm totally stoked to meet some more Yu-Gi-Oh players. And other than that, I'll see you guys this weekend. Deuces.